Well, you might have heard about it by now, but a very active stormy weather pattern lies ahead over the next 10 days or more. And the first of these storm systems will be arriving later Wednesday night and Thursday. The first winter storm watches are up for Pennsylvania, where there could be a significant ice situation setting up for there, as well as down into West Virginia. We've got a winter storm also going out on in parts of the Northwest, in the Northern Rockies, and back over toward the West Coast. We'll let you know about all of this, do a little long range, all the fun stuff we do here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which you can support by do your Amazon shopping using the referral link that's pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this podcast on YouTube. It's very easy. Just use the link, search for your stuff, buy it, and Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. It doesn't cost you one extra cent. It is all out of Amazon's pocket, and it's a great, easy way to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. I know some of you have done this, and many thanks for doing that. And if you'd like, you can join them. I got to tell you, I'm really astounded with all the daily um, machinations that we go through with weather models. And I've just been watching the last 4 or 5 days, every run. I mean, there are some differences here and there, but I cannot remember the last time I've seen any that sort of consistency. And it looks like we're going into a storm parade here, beginning this Wednesday night, Thursday, and probably there, I counted five. Maybe I counted wrong, but certainly we've got one for later Wednesday night into Thursday, and another one for Saturday night into Sunday.
I definitely agree with you. And of course, Sunday will be important to a lot of people because that's Super Bowl Sunday, and a lot of people have plans made to go to Super Bowl parties and are wondering whether or not the weather will impact their event. I will say, Joe, that in terms of Sunday, right now, and things could change, but right now, it looks like the lion's share of the unsettled wintry or semi-wintry weather will probably hit later on Saturday into early Sunday, and by the time the actual game is getting ready, the kickoff time, that system will probably be past us or behind us, and hopefully all of you will have gotten to the game in the wake of maybe clearing away some snow and ice. And speaking of snow and ice, that's what we're looking for, as Joe just mentioned, Wednesday night into Thursday. Joe, I don't know, the models are slightly out of kilter with each other in terms of the timing. If you believe, for example, the GFS, the main swath of precipitation will not be arriving until after 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, but the faster NAM, for example, wants to bring it in by 4 a.m. And that precip, regardless of whether you're looking at the NAM or the GFS, will almost certainly start off as snow. And then the question is going to be exactly what the timing will be in terms of a changeover. Yes, it looks like there will be a most definite changeover. No all snow event. This looks like it's going to go from snow to a period of sleet and ice to finally finishing off as a period of plain rain. And in fact, that's what the weekend system looks like too. So we have a couple of real messes coming our way.
I'm just gonna slightly disagree with you on this. First
Okay.
of with the first one, it's not the models are only generating mostly between a quarter of and a half an inch, so it's not like this is going to be some kind of big event from the standpoint of precip. That's a minor issue. I'm actually more intrigued by the Saturday night Sunday system. I think that could wind up being a more of a depending on your location. I think that could wind up being more of a snow situation. I'm not saying that everybody's going to get snow, but I think that's going to, that's looking to me like that could turn out to be a colder solution that could turn out where more areas wind up with frozen precipitation as opposed to going over to sleet and rain. But, we've got a lot of time to watch the second one. And
Right.
but the bottom line is that there's, it's a very it's a dynamic pattern. You've got all this stuff going on up in the Arctic region. The AO is going negative. The Arctic Oscillation is going negative. The NAO is going negative. The East Pacific Oscillation is going negative. I mean, it's not a, there are some issues here and there, of course, there always are, but this kind of reminds me of 1994, where it was one map after another,
Yeah,
one storm after another. I think there were something like 15 events from late January till mid-March, and we were getting them like every 2 days, every 3 days, something would come along, and it wouldn't be 1 to 3, 2 to 4. Every once in a while, one would produce like six, but it was this non-stop conveyor belt, and it sort of looks like it looks a lot like that.
I remember that was in 1994. We had that one storm, I think it was on February 8th or 9th, and that dumped about a half a foot of snow. And then we had a respite of about 36 hours, and then came an even larger storm. It was on a Friday into Friday night, and that dumped like a foot of snow on top of the half foot that fell just a day or two earlier. You're right. It's like a conveyor belt, and I just incidentally put up on my screen, if you want to show everybody, I'm sharing it right now,
Yeah, it's
from
up
the
there.
from your friends at Climate Prediction Center, who, by the way, said that February was going to be an above normal month here in the East, and it's looking less and less like that. But take a look, everybody. They are showing a swath of potential snowfall, and New York tri-state area is right in the thick of it. A slight risk of heavy snow from February 11th through February 15th. Now here we are, Joe. We're talking about February 6th. We're talking about next weekend, Sunday, February 9th, February 11th through the 15th. That would be a week from tomorrow through the end of that week, next week, which would be the 15th, would be Saturday, and sometime in that time frame, and we'll look at that in the long range. Apparently, Climate Prediction Center is, bold enough to say that yes, there is the chance that there could be a potential significant heavy snowfall. Admittedly, slight risk probabilities exist now, but the very fact that they're doing that, and I have yet to see New York, Long Island, New Jersey in a slight risk case for any kind of heavy snow yet this winter. But here it is, folks. There it is for all of you to see for the 11th through the 15th. So we'll see how that pans out. That, however, is next week after we get these two atmospheric hemorrhages out of the way, Wednesday night, Thursday, and Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, there's needless to say, we're going to be busy. So and hopefully one of these pans out, because I'd hate to think now that you got a pattern like this, that if we can't, if we can't get snowfall amounts at least to get above 10 inches for the season, uh, you've got a real problem here. Well, and of course the snow weenies will really commit mass suicide by jumping off the cliff. Welcome tonight, everybody on the chat board. Welcome to those of you who are lurking in the background on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We love you too. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. We throw in the occasional Friday and Saturday if there's a storm around or a storm threatening. So stay tuned. We might be adding a show here and there in the coming weeks. So make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And of course, if you like the show, hit the like button.
Well,
Okay.
we're actually going to take like what, 3, 4 days off later this week and through the upcoming weekend, correct?
Yeah,
I
right.
just I want to get a rise. I want to get a rise out of Ruben from the Mohawk Valley, who in capital letters on the chat board says, "Don't take a damn day off. Work through
Well,
the 15th for Pete's sake."
we'll be here. We both have other things going on in that time frame, but we'll be here in one form or another.
Oh,
Uh,
and he follows that up with, "Do a freaking marathon now through the 15th of February."
oh yeah, sure. All right. Uh, uh, I am, by the way, I'm just kind of, I have I'm fighting a little bit of a head cold. I have not had a cold in 5 years. Okay. 5 years, Joe. Not so much as a sniffle. This is the third head cold that I have gotten in the last 2 months. Got one at the beginning of December, got one at the beginning of January, and now I got another one here at the beginning of February. So I don't know why or how. It's not terrible. It's actually I feel fine, just a little bit congested, but it's just for some reason I'm making up for the past 5 years by getting three colds in
It's it's called the Brasstown Ball flu.
well, it's called something. I mean, everybody around here in the last couple of months, it's just whatever's been going around's been going around. But this one particular brand of head cold seems to be very highly contagious since now I've gotten it 3 times. All right, let's look at what's going on the watches and warnings map. So the first winter storm watches are up in western Pennsylvania and also extending down into West Virginia. The big concern, I think, for much of Pennsylvania is going to be freezing rain. Uh, we could be seeing a significant freezing rain event across much of the state here out of this first storm system. We have some snow going on in upstate New York right now, and that's producing some winter weather advisories in the northernmost counties and also in a couple of counties in northern Vermont and northern New Hampshire. Meanwhile, the whole state of Montana is under either a winter storm warning or a winter weather advisory, although there's this dark blue. What is that? Is that a extreme cold, an extreme
I
cold
can't tell.
warning? Yeah, extreme cold warning. I was looking at some of the observations. Helena, Montana right now is 0 with moderate snow, and Billings is 3 below 0 with moderate snow. And the forecast for tonight was for snow up to 3 inches with a low of 18 below 0. And all I could think of was is it, I really would like to see what that's like.
Well, I didn't have snow, but in 1979, I was in Montana. I was in Lewistown, where they had the national low temperature of 17 below zero. But again, there wasn't any precipitation when I was experiencing that. But in retrospect, I wouldn't have wanted precipitation falling with 17 below zero. But it ain't fun, no matter which way you
No.
slice it or dice it. So there you go.
Avalanche warnings in western Wyoming. We have winter storm warnings up for the northern half of Idaho, the southern half of Oregon, most of the southern half of Oregon, and into northern California and down to the Sierra Nevadas as that Pacific moisture. And that's part of the equation for what's going to be going on in the east is the fact that the Pacific, which has been virtually closed off for this entire winter, has really opened up in a big way. And normally that might not be good news for the East, but there the setup in the atmosphere is such that we actually do have a connection to cold air coming down from Canada that's going to be strengthening as we go through the next couple of weeks. So here's the satellite loop tonight. There's a cold front that's approaching from the northwest, and there's snow along that front in upstate New York and in parts of northern New England and back to the Great Lakes. And you could also see, all this moisture that just continues to pour in off the Pacific, moving from southwest to northeast. Heavy rains where it's not snowing in lower elevation areas and down near the coast into central California. Heavy rains there. And some of that energy is going to set off the first storm system in the east for Wednesday night into Thursday. And here's the radar in the northeast. There's some bands of moderate snow going on in upstate New York here. The one shooting off of Lake Ontario near Watertown. Also along I-90. It's pretty much snowing all along I-90 from Buffalo clear through to maybe just to now over to about Albany. So it's pretty solid there. And that's all sliding east. So it's heading into Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine. And then the front itself will pass through virtually unnoticed other than a wind shift. And snow in Montana on the radar, back up into Idaho. and you can see the heavy rain that has moved into California. And of course, when it gets up into the Sierra Nevadas, we're talking heavy snow, as well as the snow levels in southern Oregon, actually near the coast, are pretty low, Joe, down under 2,500 feet. That's low.
It is. It is. And are we gonna see? You think over the next 4, 5, 6 days we're going to see the infamous 1,500-mile warm front?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what CPC, what it looked like, the way they had that risk zone drawn. But maybe we will. Maybe it's set. We had it back in January when it went from Kansas to Virginia. It was basically a 1,500-mile long warm front. So things in winters like to, patterns tend to repeat themselves to some extent. And, with this active pattern, it wouldn't shock me. WPC in terms of total actual precip. So we have two events in the time frame that takes us to next Monday night. So we're looking at anywhere from an inch to an inch and a half of melted, and there's that purple area right along the coast of northern New Jersey, well, north central Jersey, and touching the south shore of Long Island. Also, heavy precip central and western Pennsylvania, an inch and a half to 2.5 inches. Again, it's two events we're talking about here, and I'm concerned about the first one for Pennsylvania down into West Virginia with regards to freezing rain. In the west, it's loaded in the Sierra Nevadas. You're looking at melted precip of 7 to 10 inches or more. Along the coast, it's on the order of 3 or 4 inches. From I would say maybe from just south of San Francisco all the way up to just south of Portland. So it's a very very loaded area of moisture from the Pacific, and the inch of rain area actually goes south of LA. So they're going to get some rains in Southern California, lesser amounts up in the plains, lesser amounts or no amounts in the parts of the Gulf states and in parts of the Southwest. Now, WPC, let's take a look. Now, so for the first event, WPC, this is the problem. They didn't fix their maps, and I am not happy, WPC. You need to fix these maps because I'd like to see the probability of at least 2 inches on a 72-hour map. And they disappeared about a month ago, and they're still gone. And we know you lurk in the background. So, see what you can do. But anyway, this is and of course, when I move the mouse, it disappears. So this is the probability for at least an inch for uh, for Wednesday night, Thursday. So you're looking at the darker blue is 40%, the next shade of lighter is 50. So New York City, 40 to 50% probability, kind of touches the north shore of Long Island. Connecticut probabilities are higher, looking at 60 to 70% for at least an inch. The amounts tail off as you go back into Pennsylvania because the problem there is freezing rain. And of course, the amounts further north are higher. I'm going to just switch it to a probability for at least 4. And again, this is a minor event. So you're not seeing, I wouldn't expect to see big numbers with regards to this first low going by because most of the models are, again, generating anywhere between a quarter and a half an inch. Now, freezing rain, I want to give a look here. This is for at least 100th of accretion. And they actually have gotten even a little bit more bullish a little bit further to the east. So they have the 50% line, Joe, touching New York City, cutting Connecticut on a diagonal to just west of Boston, and then going south. It runs south of Washington, D.C., Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore and Washington look like they're closer to maybe a 60 to 70% probability for freezing rain of at least 100th ice accretion. And you see in Pennsylvania, I mean, it's pretty solid. If we go to a 10th, which is probably more useful, Western New Jersey, touching Western New Jersey's that 40% line. And you got a good chunk, good chunk of the state of Pennsylvania, central and western Maryland, northwestern Virginia, northeastern West Virginia, and also don't want to leave out the folks in northern or northeast, northwest Ohio, northeast Indiana, southern Michigan, and then on the other side, on the Canada side, this could be, there could be some significant icing, I think.
Yes, I'm just thinking about what's going to happen here locally Wednesday night or by daybreak on Thursday, getting like an inch or two of snow, and then getting some freezing rain and ice on top of that. What that tells me is that in just to try to clear that, it's going to be one of those again. The last storm that we had, the one that we had about a week ago, about 5 or 6 inches of snow here. It was delightful to clear because it was low density, puffy, powdery snow. The snow blower was throwing the snow like 20, 30 feet. But when you get what we're looking at for Wednesday night, Thursday, that's not going to be fun to clear because it's going to be of a heavy, wet consistency. You can just barely, the machine can just barely throw that 5 or 6 feet. It's sloppy, it's wet, it's hard even with the machine to push along, and so this is not going to be fun. I know we're not looking at a whole heck of a lot of snow, and we're also looking for some ice on top of that. But that's going to make for a messy and not too nice situation on Thursday. And again, we may well. Joe thinks that we may see more snow than ice or rain on the weekend system, but in any case, this is not going to be your good old-fashioned puffy, powdery winter snowfall or snow that we're looking at coming up, either for Wednesday, Thursday, or for Saturday, Sunday.
What'd you wind up with last night?
Quite honestly, I did not. I'm going to take a guesstimate and say I ended up with about 1.5 inches. I did not
Yeah.
get around um, to making an official measurement, partly because my daughter was staying here last night and she had to get to school this morning. She had a 2 hour delay, but I was worried that there may be a problem. So I went outside around 10 o'clock last night and shoveled a good part of the driveway to clear the snow away. So this way she had a free and clear uh, line of sight to go down the driveway and on into the road. But it wasn't a heck of a lot. It was maybe
Right.
about again about an inch and a half. But I have a lot of you know this morning after she left, it took me about 2.5 hours. I didn't break the machine out for an hour and a half for an inch and a half. Um, I did it all by hand. Took about 2.5 hours. I have a lot of driveway and also up near the garage to clear out, and the side of the house too, and the deck. So that's how I spent my morning, Joe, clearing away that inch and a half. But it wasn't bad because again it wasn't a puffy powdery snow, but it wasn't that heavy wet slushy gloppy snow. It was kind of like somewhere in between.
WPC, now this is for Sunday. WPC has much of New Jersey, the northern half of the state. So actually, I guess if you go south of Philadelphia and then draw a line to maybe uh, Middlesex County in New Jersey, from there northward is all 30 to 50%. So is Long Island, except the South Shore is 10 to 30. Um, 10 to 30% goes all the way down to southern New Jersey, uh, Delaware, northern Delaware, back to Maryland. And you've got 50 to 70 in northwest New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, much of Connecticut, much of central New England, and upstate New York and the Catskills and so on. So this is in their long range. Again, this is from 12, this is from 7 a.m. Saturday. The forecast period is 7 a.m. Saturday to 7 a.m. Sunday. So this covers um, a, a good chunk of the second system. So I'm again, I'm a little intrigued by it because it's going to be a heavier precip producer, and I'm seeing some things that might
Let
indicate that
me
the atmosphere could be a little bit colder when we get there. But there's time to figure that out. Got to get the first one out of the way before we can deal with the second one.
let me this. I'm sorry to interrupt. I have
Please
to
do.
answer. I have to answer William Jersey Shore, who I guess thinks he knows everything about snow and clearing away snow. Now, William Jersey Shore, listen and listen carefully. Had I not done anything to the snow that was on my driveway, if I didn't touch it, you know what would have happened? It still would be there as of this afternoon. Yes, I know. It did get up to 42 degrees here in Putnam Valley, as according to my thermometer or my weather station. But if I had not done anything to the snow, very little of that would have melted. The key to clearing snow is what you have to do, especially when you have a blacktop driveway, is to get at least most of the snow, or at least scrape it, so that some of the blacktop shows. Then the infrared and ultraviolet rays of the sun, and really, Joe, we didn't have any full sunshine today. We had kind of a hazy sun. But the
Right.
infrared and ultraviolet working in concert with the blacktop, once it gets through to the blacktop, then the rest of the driveway, the rest of the snow will melt. But if I just left that snow hanging there, nothing would have happened to the snow. Hardly anything would have happened. I would still have a driveway filled with snow. Maybe not a full inch and a half. Maybe a half an inch might have melted off, but it still would be covered. And as proof of this, I did everything on my property except for one place, the back patio here, which is just underneath my deck. And looking at it at 4 o'clock this afternoon, the part that I didn't do, still there. Still there. About an inch of snow is still there. I'll get around to clearing that tomorrow. But I didn't do anything to that, and it was still there through 4 o'clock this afternoon in 42-degree weather. So what you have to do is you have to get at least some of that blacktop exposed and let it work in concert with the sun, and then nature helps you out and melts everything down. But if you don't touch it, if you just have that little light layer of snow there, it's going to stay there. The only way that that snow would have, much better than a 42-degree sunny day is 42 degrees or even
Fog.
35, 36 degrees with fog.
Right.
Fog is a snow eater. Fog would have melted away that snow as quick as a whistle. But we didn't get the fog. We just had hazy sun, and again, temperatures in the upper 30s and low 40s. But as long as I had scraped enough so that it allowed some of the blacktop to show, then the sun was able to work and do its thing and melt off the rest of the snow. So there you go. So I know William Jersey Shore, you said you were stupid to shovel it. No, I wasn't stupid. I've lived up here for 22 years, William Jersey Shore, and I know how to maintain a house and
He
maintain,
actually used.
yeah, and ring, 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 ring. It's one thing. It's one thing if you could be nice on the chat board and say, "Could you explain to me why you did that?" But when you start saying, "Why shovel it?" It was stupid of you to try to shovel it only an inch and a half. When you're that way, I can't help but I
Yeah,
have
I
to
know
defend.
it's the wrong choice of words.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
but he also indicated on an earlier before the show started that he was lighting up, which says to me that he's not all there at the moment. He's in a different world, doing things that are frying his mind. So you have to be, Joe. You need to be more forgiving. Let's put it that way with someone like that.
Johnny, Johnny Summit remembers my days in Levittown. I said, Joe Art, you didn't have these problems in Levittown. Well, maybe not. I didn't have as much driveway, for example, in Levittown. I didn't have to clear away all that much. But when I was in Levittown, I had some of the biggest blankety blank snowstorms. I mean, like the blizzard of '96 and the President's Day storm of 2000. Oh, actually, was I still? Where was I in 2002? No, it was 2003. I was up here for 2003, the President's
Right?
Day storm. But we had some big storms. I was certainly in Levittown for the 1994 winter, Joe, and that wasn't fun.
No, that
that
wasn't. Freezing rain in 12. I've never forgotten that. A foot of snow on the ground and it turned to freezing rain and it was 12 above zero. Never seen freezing rain at the temperature of 12. And on Long Island, no less. But I did wind up seeing it. So if you weren't here for last night's show when Dave Tolerus jumped in the middle of it, you might want to go back and give it a look because he gave a great explanation about what's going on. And as I mentioned earlier, the remarkable consistency from run to run on the overall flavor of this developing pattern. You have blocking that's pushing up from Alaska. You've got blocking that's coming up the other side from Greenland, and they sort of merge together. Everything gets displaced south. Deep trough gets displaced to the south. In fact, if it's still there, I mean, the European was crazy cold again. Another look at this trough that the European has after Valentine's Day coming into the east. I mean, that's bitter air that it's
Yeah,
shooting down. So yeah, it's kind of like I feel like almost like when we were at the end of December going into January, when January was setting up. I kind of feel like we're seeing a repeat performance of that. We had, basically from the month of January, then we came out of it. We've been in this thaw zone for the last week or so, and now that seems to be over with, and now we're firing it up for round two. That may carry us through a good chunk of the month of February, possibly beyond that, depending on how strong this blocky pattern is, and if you believe the European and even in the GFS too. I mean, again, it's that to me, there's that consistency that's shown up here is something that you rarely see, particularly as you go out further into the long range. I mean, that is bitter if that winds up verifying. And the
yeah.
GFS is not quite
Okay.
that way, but it could get there. And anyway, so it's really a parade of storms. Go ahead. You were about to say something.
Well, I put this map up last night. This was the 3 to 4 week
All right, hold
temperature
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me get it up there for you. Okay, go on.
This was the 3 to 4 week temperature outlook that was put out by the Climate Prediction Center, not 10 days or 8 days ago. This was put out fairly recently, last Friday. It was issued on January 31st. This is for the 15th through the 28th of February. You can see that much of the southern and eastern United States is in the above normal category for temperatures, and the below normal is constricted or confined to the northern plains and the Pacific Northwest. Now, notice this is for February 15th through February 28th. Now, I want to show you today's 8 to 14 day outlook, and this is valid for February 11th through the 17th. In other words, it actually crosses over into the beginning of that 3 to 4 week outlook. The 3 to 4 week outlook started on the 15th. Runs through the 11th through the 17th of February. Also, take note of the fact that in their monthly outlook, this was put out also at the end of January. They said February would be an above normal month here in the East. Well, take a look at this, folks. This is their 8 to 14 day outlook. Here now, the below normal, the core of the below normal air is over the northern plains. But look, below normal temperatures literally covering, I would say, Joe, on their latest outlook, which was put out today at 3 o'clock this afternoon, about 80% of the country is below normal, including us here in the northeastern United States. And if you look at that and you say, okay, so what is the precipitation outlook for that same time frame? Well, there you go. The much of the country is above normal, especially so here in southern Virginia, all the way down across into your area of the country, Joe, and
Yeah.
down into northern sections of Alabama and Mississippi. So that seems to it implies now that there's a chance that we could be looking at some snow during that 11th to 17th day period. And don't forget, we kicked off this Joe and Joe tonight by showing from the CPC the probability of slight risk of heavy snow in that same zone right around here, including the tri-state area. So you've got, according to the CPC now, and it looks like they're agreeing with you now, Joe, the combination of cold temperatures, below normal temperatures, and above normal precipitation, possibly setting the stage finally for some legitimate snowfall here in the days and weeks ahead.
Well, perhaps, Joe, that they were watching the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast last night, where we spoke of all of this. They do lurk in the background. One of these days, somebody's going to give themselves away, and I'm going to catch them. All right, let's go back to the now. All of a sudden, everybody's favorite model is the GFS, but well, you know what? I can't blame you, I guess, because everybody gets to see snow maps. Look, if I'm just going to tell you, if be happy if half of the amounts that are on the snow maps are verified. Okay, uh, be happy if you get that, and anything else on top of that would be a bonus. So here's our map tonight. Cold front to the northwest. You see the storminess in the west, a low there in near Reno, Nevada. The heavy rain and heavy snow in California, spreading up through Idaho and Montana. The front in the east goes by. We're going to chill down in slow motion tomorrow and Wednesday. So part of that cold high goes up into upstate New York and New England. Some of that Pacific energy comes east. Here comes the low. And I'm going to switch to the radar version of this. And in fact, let's go close up so we can look at the east. So this is Thursday morning on the GFS. And you can see there's snow ahead of this to about New York City. This is at 7 a.m. There's some darker blue, heavier snow just before you go over that big area of purple. So that's freezing rain that I mentioned with regards to West Virginia into Pennsylvania, Northeast West Virginia, Northwestern Virginia, Western and Central Maryland. And then by 1 p.m., rain, the back edge is to New York City. It looks like it's changed to rain on Long Island and North Jersey, but it's still mostly snow in the Hudson Valley and Connecticut, and then gone. But again, this is like a quarter to maybe a half an inch of total liquid here, so we're not talking about a lot of precip, and it's like 6 or 7 hours, so it's pretty fast. Gets out of here, and then we get a break, and then we set up for the weekend, which is another low, some more Pacific energy coming east. And this is Saturday night. So this is at 1 a.m. Sunday morning where it's snowing all the way up to Massachusetts, much of upstate New York, Long Island, northern and central New Jersey. It's sleet and freezing rain in South Jersey and southern Pennsylvania. By morning, it's still snowing in New York City and Long Island, just about getting ready to change. And of course, the back edge is approaching too. So this is another system that's going to be moving quick. And then by 1 p.m., it's of course long gone. And then that goes out. And then we get a break. And then here comes the next one. And this is, I think, the one that maybe CPC was. This is for the 12th. Probably a fairer view might be on the 12Z. So let me use that one. So here's the 12th. Another system for the 12th that goes by to our south with snow up to about southern New England. And then it looks like what could be a stronger system behind that. The 18Z was even more bullish. You can take a look here. This is around the 11th and 12th going through. And I don't know if this is right. It for some reason it wants to try to take a load of the up the west side of the Appalachians, almost right behind the one for the 12th. I don't know if that's correct. And then here comes another. Here comes a big one around the 16th on the GFS. So look, it's going to be really busy. We've got a lot of chances coming down the pike. Some setups will probably wind up being a little better than others, and we'll just see what it all comes out to at the end of the day when we get to the end of the month, what the numbers are. So I'm just hoping for snow lovers that they get enough that they can at least climb off the edge of the cliff.
And just in Croce, I don't know what the all-time high is for the chat room. Do we have? I think Bill Corbell was on with us one night. We had something like 900 people in the
Yeah, no,
chat.
we've gone over 1,000 a few times. We've
Yeah,
got over 1,000 viewers a few times.
yeah,
But we're at
we
300 tonight. That's pretty good. And
yeah.
133 likes. Oh, excuse me. All right, let's run through Briller Jeopardy rather quickly before I start losing my voice. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Everybody ready? All right. The warmest temperature ever in the month of February.
At Central Park.
Yes. And
Oh,
you should remember this, Joe.
well, I remember it was like it was just before a big snowstorm,
That
correct?
is correct. Yes. It
And
was
we were at Fios One when that happened.
we had a blizzard warning up. We had we had record high temperatures with a blizzard warning up at the same time.
I think it was somewhere around 75, 76.
No, oh, the temperature. I thought you were going with the year. Um,
No,
yeah, I'm sorry. No, actually, that is too low.
really.
Yes, that is too low.
I
You
see
were
a bunch of people, Adam Lowe, Frank Scalera saying 78.
78
Well, it
in,
has to be 70.
and this was, of course, on February 21st, 2018. And we had a foot and a half of snow the next day. By
See
that morning, it was
that gets
seven.
me that gets
I'm
me
sorry.
angry. It gets me angry for my sister. My sister, who was an editor at Simon and Schuster, a children's editor, had an opportunity to get a job at the Children's Television Workshop,
Oh, I remember this.
Sesame Street, and so they told her, the executive producer or the guy who was in charge of the hiring said, "All right, write an interesting story, a funny story." And so she wrote a story, I think it involved Ernie and Bert and Oscar the Grouch or whatever, about how it was very hot outside, and then all of a sudden, looking up and they see snow coming down, snowflakes coming down. And, so in other words, the story was whimsical. It was about a period of warm weather or hot weather, immediately followed by a snowstorm. The guy who was in charge of the hiring read the story and called my sister in and said, "Look," he said, "it's one thing to be whimsical. It's another. We don't want to teach the kids something that can never happen." He says, "You can't possibly have hot weather or very warm weather and have snow the next day." And so they didn't hire her. They gave her, for writing the story, they gave her some money, but she didn't get the job. It was a very important, very high, a job that she would have loved to have gotten, but she didn't because that. And when she told me the story, I got really upset because Joe, I remember one case, and I think it was in one of David Ludlam's book, Childress, Texas. They had like 90 some odd degrees one day, and the next day a blue norther came down, knocked the temperature down to like 11 degrees, and also was accompanied by heavy snow and snow showers. I said, "You call that guy up." Well, she never did, but I was like really angry. And now look what happened in 2018 with us,
Yeah.
with temperatures of 78. And at the same time, as you mentioned, yeah, they're putting out special weather statements about record high temperatures for February. And the next day we had blizzard conditions. It
Yeah,
happens.
and it was 78 at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 6 a.m. the next morning it was 19, and it was heavy snow with lightning
Right.
and thunder. On top of that, the coldest February day.
Oh, we know that. We've said this over and over and over again. That was February 9th, 1934, 15 below at Central Park.
Yes,
We've never even come close to that since the 1940s. I
right.
mean, if we get very cold in New York nowadays in Central Park, it's zero, -1, maybe -2. But in 1934, 15 below. I saw the maps for that, Joe. We had high pressure to our north. We had a strong northerly wind. We also had a significant snowfall a couple of days before.
Right.
So the combination of the north wind plus a deep snow cover that set the stage for a 15 below
Oh,
temperature at Central Park.
it'll do it to you every time. Um, the coldest daytime maximum temperature.
Uh, well, there haven't been very many days where you and I have been on this planet where the temperature has been below 10 degrees for a high.
Right.
Nowadays, that's kind of a rarity. I would suppose back in the day, the coldest high temperature might have been, I'm talking about the late 1800s or early 1900s, 4 or 5 degrees.
You ring the bell for yourself. It's 4. And a few of you on the chat board, Mike Waterhouse, Bonsai, Chuck Cardillo, and a couple of others, Jason Fox, getting it at 4. And that was on February 15th, 1918. All right, the final question is the most snow for the most snow for the month of February.
Didn't we just have this in our
It's a recent
lifetime?
it's a recent occurrence.
Yeah, I think it was something like, was it maybe 20, was it 2015, 36 inches or something ridiculous
Well,
like
you
that?
got the
Or
number right. 36.9. 36.9 is the number. So let's round it off and say 37. And the year, flood weather gets it at 2010.
was that
2010.
that was the Snowmageddon year, correct? That was,
No, no. Well, that
wasn't?
was no. Um, 9, 10, and 10, 11. So that was 2009, 2010 was a big snow winter, but it wasn't the Snowmageddon was 2013,
Okay.
and that was
Hey, look,
more for Long Island and Connecticut than it was for New York City on the
I mean,
Snowmageddon one.
the very fact that we're getting mixed up in years in terms of years of heavy snow tell you that that during those years, I mean, every year was just like one thing after another. And by the way, I saw on the chat board, I forgot the name. I'm trying to look back and find it. Um, saying, I don't know who it was, saying, now we're in this pattern where we're going to get lots and lots of snow, whatever. And it harkens back, Joe. Remember all those people back in November and December who were saying, "Oh no, this is going to be another bad winter. Oh, it's going to never going to snow again. It's never going to snow."
Well, don't count your inches before you get them because they
I
still can't.
understand,
We have to put them down first.
yeah, but I mean, like that was when everything looked bleak,
Yeah.
like there was no chance for anything, and now all of a sudden everything looks, rosy, so to speak, for snow lovers. But
Well, Central Park got an inch yesterday. So what are they up to now for the season? 7 or 8 or something? Or
I don't know. In fact, you know what? I went online more than a few times today to check at New York City, Upton, New York, to get the snow reports, and I didn't see any snowfall reports.
yeah, I saw it
Maybe
this morning. It was there this morning. They got an inch, and
okay,
actually, parts of southeast Connecticut got 3 to 4 inches out of it. Most of
okay.
Connecticut got 2 to 3. So they were the big winners last night with regards to that sneaky little warm front that moved on through.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
it was coming down at my house here in Putnam Valley. I'll tell you that between like 7:30 and 9 o'clock, I said this is verging on moderate snow. But again, that was we said that on the show last night that whatever we were going to get, we were going to get in that time frame because very quickly after about 9:30, things petered out, and by 11 o'clock, it was all over. So it was speed last night that killed the chances for really significant or substantial snowfall. It was just moving too quickly. Got to
Yeah.
get one of those slow movers with hour after hour of light to moderate snow to put down a lot. We'll see.
All right. All right. Let's wrap it up here because I'm starting to lose it. So I want to stay healthy enough so that I'm be able to do the shows for the rest of the week. So we will be back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Thanks everybody for being here. David Fuller, thank you for hitting super chat tonight. Yep, and we'll what is if it does come true, that would push New York City above normal. If yeah, he was talking about the GFS the GFS snow totals over the next 2 weeks. Like I said, be happy if you haven't seen the map. You can go see it, cut it in half, and be happy if you get that. Maybe we'll be able to get more than uh, what you'd get if you cut it in half. All right, take it easy, folks. We'll see you tomorrow night, 7:35. Night, night.
Nighty night, folks.